think the one that's most significant for this this program is stock to flow, and that is what's the overall stock versus total flow. Now, the only rival to Bitcoin ever, realistically, is gold, and Bitcoin is a much better stock to flow trajectory than Bitcoin. So I think it was B2B. There's a lot of people who do stock to flow, and 100,000 was basically kind of the next threshold target. I've used a number of different methodologies, and I look at 100,000 as the next key resistance threshold target in Bitcoin. And I use different stories, but I completely agree with the stock to flow. I just try to create my own on the terminal. I was not happy with the back test, although the forward looks great. So, but there's a number of ways, and it's one thing I learned earlier on in this business, Dustin, working in the Chicago trading pits in the 80s, is I would be in a row with a dozen people on the phones dealing with institution customers. Every one of us had a different way of looking at the market, and everyone was legitimate and valid as long as it worked for you and help you give an edge. So the way I typically have switched this year is much less fundamental and much more transitionary paradigm shifting. Like, I sense what's happening in this space. And everybody sees it now, that the demand is overwhelming. The get me in, if I'm not in, I feel left behind sense. And the headlines are just trickling down every day. I just mentioned Apple. That's just one. Just Bank of America and JP Morgan recently put out research reports saying how, bullish the space is. 2 years ago, that would have been a dream. To me, that's what's happening. It's in the early stages. So I put down a little bit of the on-chain metrics I was looking at because I thought they were a little too granular, a little too much in the trees, and focus more on the forest. And so far, it's worked. So far this year, I mean, prices should go higher. It's the question, how much higher? And my technicals have worked pretty well there. I see Ethereum now bumping up against good resistance around 5,000, good support around 4,000. It's not technical, not too complicated. I mean, and Ethereum, I think Bitcoin is probably going to get to that $100,000 threshold. It's a question of when and then how it reacts. And I fully expect one key thing to continue happening is volatility to continue to decline in the space. And one way I'll measure that is versus gold. So to me, volatility is all relative. I'm ex options traders. You look at annual volatility in Bitcoin. When the first Bitcoin ETFs were launched in 2017, it was about 8. Annual volatility in Bitcoin was about 8x that of gold. Now it's 4x. Now that's 260 days of actual business days. Where's that going? Clearly heading lower, which means Bitcoin's running into mainstream. So I look at a lot of those technical indicators. I look at a lot of things like Bitcoin, like volatility. A key thing that got me really bullish back in April, May, when it collapsed from 60 to 30. And first, I have to admit, I did not think it would do that right away. I thought 40 to 50 would hold support. Partly because I'm fundamentally bullish. I knew it was overbought, but I have to be careful putting out bearish sell signals. But it did do it, and once it did correct, the relative to its 20-week moving average on some of my other indicators got the cheapest it was since the bottom in 2018. I'm like, okay, fundamentally bullish, massive speculative flush. You got to flush out the week longs, of which I used to be when I was in the pit trader. Got caught on the wrong side of a lot of trades. Flush them out back to the enduring bull market. And that's one key thing benefit that cryptos have had, and part of the reason they're making new highs this year, and I think stronger new highs, is Bitcoin and Ethereum both corrected at least almost 50%. That cleansed the market. The stock market hasn't had more than a 10% correction measured by the S&P 500 since last year's low. So at some point, that's going to happen, and that's not profound. It's the question of what that means for the macro, because I fully expect that's just really bullish for Bitcoin in the big picture. In the meantime, everything's correlated when the stocks only go up and the Fed supports them. But once the stock market wobbles, say if it drops 10 to 20%, initially cryptos will decline, but then they should be better off as the Fed switches to more QE, easier rates. Trying to fight deflationary trends helps Bitcoin accelerate its path to be, which I view as just a price discovery stage. It's still early days of that, and I view as 100,000 as the next key level for that price discovery stage.